Welcome back to this week's Pitch to Post preview podcast. Now, Sheffield United host Liverpool on Sunday, live on Sky Sports. And to help me look ahead to this one, I'm pleased to say I'm joined by Sky Sports pundit Jamie Redknapp. How are you, Jamie?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Peter. Nice to see you.
Good to have you on the podcast, Jamie. Now, we're approaching 1 year since football was paused because of coronavirus, but since it's returned without fans, Sheffield United and Liverpool are two teams who've seen the biggest drop-off in terms of points. We'll come on to Sheffield United shortly, but it was another example, wasn't it, for Liverpool when they lost at home to Everton at Anfield on Saturday. That's 6 defeats in their last 9. Just to put that in context, they lost 6 in their last 100 before that. So it's been a huge drop-off for them, particularly recently in the Premier League. So what's the mood around the camp, do you think, at Anfield, at the training ground, ahead of this one as they try to turn it around against Sheffield United this weekend?
I mean, it'd be a solid mood for obviously a number of reasons. There's been a lot of bad news that have come throughout the club this last few days, certainly with Alisson, with his father, and obviously Jurgen Klopp's mother dying a few weeks ago as well. So it's been a really tough time for everybody concerned, and to a certain extent you put football, that almost pales into insignificance of what's going on, for players and when you're losing loved ones. But from a football perspective, it'll be very difficult. It'll be I'm yet to be in a dressing room, Peter, when you're losing games, it becomes a lot of fun. If anything, it's the players that aren't playing sometimes that perhaps a little bit more chirpy because they think, oh, why am I not playing in this team? I should be involved right now. But I never had that feeling with Liverpool. And everyone's everyone's trying to be the cleverest man in the room when you're trying to analyse Liverpool right now. People have their own perspective, people have their own views. But one thing you can't deny is the levels have dropped. Players, certainly individual players, I think if you were to go throughout the team, the keeper's not been as good. If you look at the right back, Trent Alexander-Arnold last year and the year before, his levels were so high. Best right back in the world we were talking about. He's not been the same player this year. Now, that can be through a number of reasons. Is he maybe thinking, well, I've cracked it now, this is it, all I've got to do is turn up and play and not do the basics of what made him one of the best right backs, which was great defending, great going forward, working hard to stop the opposition first and foremost. I have seen a drop off, and if he's honest with himself, he'll look in the mirror and say, I've not been as good this year. And I always feel, when you get a bit of criticism in the media, none of us like it. We all get it at one stage or another. But what you've got to do, what it boils down to in the end is looking at yourself and thinking, can I do better? And there are a number of players that can do better, Peter. Make no mistake. Of course, they've been hampered with injuries. They've been decimated. No teams have the problems they have at the back. And I stand by it, and only time will tell, because some will say, well, it doesn't matter that much. It can't just be Virgil van Dijk. We will find out. We won't find out now. We'll find out when he's back and when he's got a partner alongside him, like Joe Gomez. Hopefully he comes back to fitness as well. But I do genuinely think it can be as simple as that sometimes. Players haven't been as good, but confidence is low. You look at the front three, not quite firing as much, but they've still got, Salah's, I'm pretty sure, Peter, he's the top scorer. In midfield, we want to find a reason. What's happened to Liverpool in midfield? Is it Thiago? Yeah, that's a good excuse. Let's blame Thiago for everything that's gone wrong. If Thiago had Virgil van Dijk and Gomez and the back four that they normally have and a goalkeeper in form and the front three, we'd all be talking about him as one of the best midfield players in the world. But all of a sudden you're asking him to do different things. When he signed for the club, ideally you were looking at a midfield three sometimes of Thiago, Henderson and maybe Wijnaldum or Milner or whoever, which looks like a really good midfield on paper. But they've never really been able to do that because you end up playing, Jordan Henderson and Kabak as the last two games as centre-back. If you would have said that at the start of the year, this is going to be Liverpool's two centre-backs, you'd have been like, well, they can't do anything special. They can't. How can they win a league with that back four? And it's been shown. But I will also say, Peter, individuals have to do better. And they'll know that. They don't need me to tell them. They don't need pundits or anybody. They've got to do better. They've got to work harder. And the Anfield factor, Peter, is huge. Make no mistake. We talk about home and away. They're playing on a pitch right now. They're not playing on a pitch with a stadium or a stand or a noise. When you used to play at Anfield, I played it as obviously a player for Liverpool and against Liverpool. When you walk onto that pitch and you hear "You'll Never Walk Alone," you look at people sometimes and you can see they're scared. They don't want to go there. Of course, your others, your Man United, the big players, it doesn't bother them. But a lot of teams would have gone there and thought, "Cool, this is a nightmare." They won't want to play out from the back with 5 minutes to go. But because there's no pressure of the crowd, they're just doing it. And it's easy to play against Liverpool right now because of the players that aren't at that level that they were last year. And also there's no crowd making them anxious.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned Kabak there. I think it was the 18th different centre-back partnership when Nat Phillips came on to join him against Everton. I mean, how tough is that for a 20-year-old to be thrown into that situation? We know he's come in from Schalke, who are struggling in the Bundesliga, and he's had a couple of mistakes. He didn't look too bad against Leipzig in the Champions League, but it must be a tough environment to come into.
Yeah, of course, and it's incredibly tough because you're not just asked to come into a team that's struggling. It's always easier, Peter. When I remember going back throughout my career, if you had an injury or you were signing for a club, when I sort of made my debut at Liverpool, we were a struggling side. Graham Souness was manager and he introduced Steve McManaman and myself and Robbie Fowler. It was difficult because the players weren't confident, so not too many of them were going to help you because they're trying to help themselves first of all. And I genuinely believe that. There are leaders in that team. But they're struggling for confidence as well. The hardest thing in the world is as a captain, like Jordan Henderson does it well. Even if he's having a bad game, you can still hear his voice. And I think he's got better at that. Roy Keane was the best I've ever seen. No matter if Roy was playing good or bad, he would still, one way or another, try to get the best out of his teammates. And it's not easy. I certainly found it hard when I was captain of Liverpool at times when I was struggling. I thought, I just want to help myself. But there's other people as a captain or a leader, you've got to help them. So he's finding it hard, and it's no surprise he's come to a different league. He was already in a struggling team. When you played for Liverpool, you'd have thought, they'd come in there and have a defensive partner. But I think if you put him alongside Virgil van Dijk, for instance, he'd probably look a decent player. But he wasn't, he's not the answer for Liverpool going forward, but you never know. He's got a point to prove. He's got an opportunity of a lifetime here. He's just got to make sure he produces some good performances. He's got size, he's got potential, he's got pace, but everyone around him is struggling, so that makes it more difficult for him. Yeah,
and even at the other end of the pitch, since the start of this calendar year, since the start of 2021, Liverpool have got the worst shot conversion in the Premier League at 5.8%. Just to put that into context, at the other end, Man City have got the best. So that just shows you where these two teams are at in terms of their confidence in their finishing, I guess, at the moment. But good news for Liverpool, Diogo Jota was back in training this week, and they would love to have him back, wouldn't they, sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that's a huge advantage for them when they get him back. He was in really good form. It was a blow, blow for them in terms of the goals that he was involved in, assists and everything. And he was in red hot form. So it was difficult, and you can't really replace anybody like that because of the form that he was in. So it will give everybody a lift. It will get everybody on their toes again. But teams have found a way. Excuse me. I remember the first time I think they struggled with West Brom when they came to Anfield and they sat back and they let Liverpool just get crosses into the box because they haven't got that sort of focal point or a big striker. You end up sort of crossing the ball for the sake of it, not working little balls into the front man, getting runners from midfield. And they have struggled, especially if they go a goal behind, trying to find that answer. It will come. Of course it will come, but it just right now, everything that Liverpool do feels difficult. When you're in a team that's struggling for form, everything, even the basic, simple passes, crosses, you normally would find a man, they're not quite happening for them right now. They've got to get their confidence back. We might not find out about this Liverpool team. They might not finish top four. It wouldn't be a surprise. It's actually more of a surprise right now if they did finish top four in the form that they're in, Peter. But they'll have to look at this as an exercise. It's not gone well for them this season. How can we do in the Champions League? Can we maybe win the Champions League and upset the odds and do something incredibly special in that in that front? But next season, I think will obviously be a complete change. You're going to get we'll get back to normality, not just on the playing staff, but also having crowd in the stadium. Because make no mistake, Liverpool, Sheffield United, as you say. I mentioned the other day about West Ham having an advantage because they haven't got crowd in them. This isn't a dig at West Ham fans before people go, oh, you're just having a go at West Ham fans. I just know, having played against them, been a fan as a kid, sometimes the fans, when things weren't going well, would maybe turn on the players, and a lot of the players found it hard to play under that pressure, and it affects them. And I think that's one of the reasons why probably they're benefiting from having no crowd in.
Yeah, you mentioned the top four race there. So Liverpool's sixth at the moment, 5 points behind that West Ham side who are in fourth, and three behind Chelsea who are in fifth. And Liverpool play Chelsea on Thursday on Sky Sports, obviously a really pivotal game. Do you really think that Liverpool have got it all to do then to make this top four?
They have, Peter, because of the personnel. I mean, it's not because you know, they've got, look at the two centre-backs. I don't know what they're going to end up with as their centre-backs at the moment. Obviously, Jordan Henderson could be out for a couple of months. It's like he tore his groin muscle or his hamstring. It's terrible news. It's not just he's a captain, you need him back. You know, you end up with Kabak and Nat Phillips or another partnership. You can't, they're not really a team that can keep going through these partnerships. You're trying to work in a system. Confidence is low. You can talk about playing the team higher up the pitch, all these little factors. But if you're conceding goals all the time and that fear factor's gone, it doesn't really matter what you do, because Liverpool are just struggling for confidence. Everton went there. As soon as they scored that first goal, you could see the players' shoulders start to go. They started to lose belief in what they were doing. And it's inevitable that you're going to end up losing games. And that back two, right now, whoever they end up with because of the personnel they have at their disposal, is a team that would struggle. You know, if you put that in another, that's not a good, you know, back four in any team in the Premier League, let alone Liverpool, who are the title holders.
I was going to say to you, how do they turn this around? And I guess some people would say, you know, win on on Sunday against Sheffield United, get back on track, and things can start to happen. But sort of from what you're suggesting, this is going to be a longer process in terms of getting players back fit, perhaps getting some newer additions in the summer, getting the fans back in, and that mood shift that's obviously been hit by these bad results perhaps won't come back quite as quickly or as easily as they might like it to.
This isn't a short fix. You know, sometimes you have a look at when you've got a team, as an example, Tuchel comes into Chelsea. He looked at it and thought it's a team perhaps lacking confidence, but not too bad because they've been on a 17-game run before when Frank Lampard was the manager. All of a sudden, things now, he's gone in there, changed the system a little bit, and things have worked out. Now, you know, Gary Neville said the other day about going to a back three. Where are you getting your back three from? Who are you going to pick? He's right saying go to a back three. Chelsea have got 5 or 6 centre-backs they could choose to have whatever system they want. Liverpool right now haven't got 2 top-level centre-backs to go to a back four, let alone a back three. So it's all right saying all these things, and everyone's being really clever about what you can do, how you can change it. Liverpool's results right now, up until the end of the season, are going to be up and down. They're going to have some good results because they've got Salah, Firmino, and Mane to do incredible things, but they're also going to have some really poor results. That is a fact, because you can't change what's in front of you right now. Jurgen Klopp can't get a special formula or a recipe to go, I'm going to change this right now I'm going to be so bright here and so clever, I'm going to change it to a back three. It isn't going to change a thing. Chelsea could change it to a back three because they had Rudiger, Thiago Silva and Azpilicueta, who played in the back three when they won the league last time, and you've got, you know, Chilwell or Alonso at left wing back, and you've got Reece James or Callum Hudson-Odoi at right wing back. That is a lot easier to do. Jurgen Klopp has got the hardest job at the moment because he hasn't got a partnership. None of them have played together. You've lost your captain for 3 months. He's got a really tough job. He had an easy job last year to a certain extent because all he had to do really was keep them going out on the pitch. The confidence was high, the fans were in the stadium, everything they did people believed in. But right now he's up against it, and this is his first challenge at Liverpool. He'll come through it, but it won't be now. It will be, I think, next season, once things start to get back to normality, not just as a team, but you start to get your best players back. Because losing Virgil van Dijk, people don't want to hear it because they find it, oh, it's Virgil van Dijk, it can't be that easy. Virgil van Dijk, pre-Van Dijk for Liverpool was where they are now. Not a lot different. Win games, great. Lose games. Van Dijk came in, all of a sudden, they look like a proper team. And one player can make that much of a difference. Look at Diaz at Man City. Last year, they're not playing any better than they were last year, Man City, but they would just keep having the same amount of possession, but they'd lose a goal with a minute to go because they weren't perhaps as good, and teams thought we can get at this back four still because they were playing a midfielder at centre back, and it's not the same. You get Diaz, Laporte, Diaz, Stones, all of a sudden you look like, wow, they can win the Champions League, they can win the league, they can win anything they want. But it isn't that much different in terms of personnel going forward last season.
So looking ahead to this game on Sunday, then obviously Liverpool have had a week to build up to it. Well, you could say they had a week to build up to the defeat they had at Leicester as well before that, and they've struggled against relegation-threatened sides like Fulham and West Brom already this season. So there's no guarantees at all, are there, against Sheffield United, the bottom team in the Premier League?
No, I mean, you wouldn't be normally, if you're a betting man, you put Liverpool last season, this would be a banker. But Sheffield United have struggled. You know, they've had I feel really sorry for them because they've played good football. You'll be better than I will on these stats, Peter, but I can't remember them. I can't remember them being out of too many games. losing 1-0, 2-1. I think the start of the season was a blow. They lost Henderson. Jack O'Connell, who was pivotal in that back three system, got injured. That was a huge blow for them. Little bit of confidence. Second season syndrome as well, I think, as a factor in terms of players. I talk about maybe Liverpool. Sometimes players think we've arrived. We've won the leagues. We've climbed the mountain. First time in 30 years. It's a little bit like Sheffield United. They think, well, we've done it now. This Premier League's not that easy. Not that difficult. And they found out it certainly is. And now I think it's a little bit of pride. They've got to make sure they finish the season as well as they can. It's going to be difficult. But if you look at what Fulham have done, Fulham have had an incredible run. Scott Parker's done a great job. They've just got to keep believing until it's mathematically, certain they can't stay up, that they can pick up results. And they'll be playing against. There's no. You're not going to play against Liverpool tomorrow. Is it Saturday the game? Yes.
Sunday.
Sunday. Sorry, Peter. Yeah, Sunday. Thinking we're scared. There's nothing to be scared of with Liverpool right now. This is a team that you can get after. You can get at them. Certainly defensively. Make sure you don't give away stupid mistakes and let Salah or Firmino or Mane do something special, and we've got every chance of winning it because the midfield and the defence is decimated.
Yeah, obviously Sheffield United have won against Man United, haven't they? So they certainly aren't out of the question this weekend. You mentioned the players certainly shouldn't be giving up until it's mathematically impossible. How much do you think Wilder will already be sort of starting to think about what his team might look like next year, how they respond, how they can get back into the Premier League as quickly as possible, because they don't want to be stuck back down in the Championship for too long?
No, and I think it's a little bit of belief as well, because I remember, I think Chris Wilder, there was a time last year, he was a manager of the season. Jurgen Klopp obviously won it. But lockdown affected them so badly, and it can't be the complete, the excuse of everything that's gone wrong. But you could see there was a way of playing, the fans, and they were so tough to play against. But they played tremendous football. When we talk about the three at the back they played with the overlapping centre backs as well. It was unique. I hadn't seen anything like it before, and I really loved watching them play. So I hope that sometimes it's a bit of common sense. Chris Wilder, if you give him the right personnel and the players, there's no reason why they can't bounce back next season if they do go down, which it looks like they will. But they've got to make sure that they're in a good position, they're confident. Players have a little bit more time, to work with the system as well, because there's been some disappointing performances from a lot of the players at Sheffield United. They'll know themselves; they've got to do better. But I do believe they can bounce back up next year if they do go down, because I love the way Chris Wilder plays. I love his enthusiasm. He's always upbeat. It's just been a tough year for them in every respect, because I think, like you said about Liverpool, it's affected Sheffield United the same. Yeah,
two teams struggling without their fans cheering them on. Obviously looking for a lift this Sunday. Jamie, thank you. Sheffield United versus Liverpool, 7:15, live on Sky Sports. Yep, thanks for joining us on the podcast, Jamie.
Anytime, Peter. See you soon, mate.